the higher. Okay. This certainly will be because normally they would, somebody the soldier would stand with it during the unit, but there's no unit.
So, are you three?
Yes, it's while they're speaking. Okay. It should be while they're
Well, that's correct. How long is the airport?
So it's true, she will be there all the time, standing like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your name? Major Martin Simpson. Major Simpson works. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
What rhythm? Sorry.
former President Donald Ramata, former Prime Minister Moses Nagamootoo, esteemed members of the judiciary, members of the diplomatic corps, honorable ministers of government, members of parliament, officers of the military, and other officials and dignitaries, Major General retired Joe Singh, Brother Sheikh Muin ul Haq, Dr. Sattar Gafoor, husband of the late Ameena Gafoor, children Omar and Ray, grandchildren Alia and Asha, other family members, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is Russell Lancaster, and I am profoundly honored to serve as Master of Ceremonies on this occasion celebrating the life of a remarkable woman who made lasting contributions to Guyana, Dr. Ameena Gafoor, AA, MPhil, MS, MA, BA. This poem, requested by her husband Sattar, reflects her gentle and pragmatic approach to life. Miss me, but let me go. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set for me, I want no rights in a gloom-filled room. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not for long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that once we shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the master plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we know. Laugh at the things we used to do. Miss me, but let me go. Ameena Gafoor was a woman of immense impact. Wife, mother, grandmother, friend, businesswoman, academic, philanthropist, author, and curator. Her numerous contributions were recognized with an honorary doctorate of letters from the University of Guyana and 2 national awards, the Medal of Service and the Golden Arrow of Achievement. As we proceed, I kindly ask each speaker to limit their remarks to approximately 3 minutes, ensuring everyone has the opportunity to contribute. And we kindly ask that all cell phones be muted for the duration of these proceedings. To begin, I invite Maulana Badruddin to lead us in the opening supplication.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good evening to all. We raise our hands in supplication. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma anta as-salam wa minka as-salam wa ilayka yarju as-salam. فحينا ربنا بالسلام وادخلنا دار السلام. تباركت ربنا وتعاليت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. سمينا وأعطانا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. بسم الله لا يضر مع اسمي شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. اللهم إنا نسألك من كل خير ما سأل منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، ونستعاذ من كل ما استعاذ منه نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وأنت المستعان وعليك البلاغ، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
Thank you, Maulana Badruddin. Our next speaker is Brother Sheikh Muin ul Haq, Director of the Central Islamic Organization of Guyana and a respected Islamic scholar known for his deep connection with the community. Sheikh Muin ul Haq.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All protocols observed. Distinguished members of the Muslim and the Guyanese community, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace, the mercy and blessings of the Almighty be with you. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. It's part of a verse of the Holy Quran the final revelations to mankind, translated as, definitely from God Almighty we came, and to him is our return. On my behalf and family, on behalf of the Central Islamic Organization of Guyana, the principal organization of Muslims here, the Muslim Youth Organization of Guyana, the Guyana Islamic Trust, the Darul Uloom, and our masjids, totaling 160 at this time, on behalf of the respective imams and administration of these masjids, I wish to extend our sincere condolence to all the relations, at the top of the list, our respected elder brother Dr. Gafoor, children all the relations of Dr. Ameena Gafoor. We pray that Allah, God Almighty, grant you the patience and strength of faith to accept his decision and decree. We thank God Almighty, who is the giver and taker of life, for having blessed our country with Dr. Ameena Gafoor. Her accomplishments bear testimony to her faith and the quality of life she lived. An educator, author, philanthropist, and generally a good human being. She touched the lives of many with her compassion, generosity, among other noble traits. Winston Kassim, former director of the IDRF, an NGO based in Canada, one who has been associated, like the Dr. Dubey, with the Dubey Gafoor Medical Center at Annandale, East Coast, Demerara, requested me not only to offer his condolence, but to make these remarks. She paid for the dialysis treatment for patients who could not afford it at the Dr. Dubey Gafoor Medical Center. She paid for the transportation of poor patients from the rural areas of our country, including Berbice and Essequibo. She went further to provide their families with groceries. This shed, this complex here, being housed at the Muslim Youth Organization of Guyana, was built by Dr. Gafoor and Dr. Ameena Gafoor and the Gafoor Group of Companies. So beautifully well done, and we now enjoy the comfort of it. Generations after us will benefit from it. The building behind you, that beautiful building, 3-story, which now houses the Secretariat of the Central Islamic Organization of Guyana. And the upper floor is housing the Ghazali Islamic Academy for both Muslim and non-Muslim children. It was built by Mr. Gafoor, Mrs. Gafoor, the Gafoor Company. In fact, Dr. Ameena Gafoor was among the founders and who laid the foundation for the Ghazali Islamic Academy, emphasizing that this religion of Islam, it is about religious tolerance and peaceful coexistence. And so when she formulated the syllabus and the protocols the school will operate by, she emphasized, yes, Islam will be taught religious education, and it will remain optional for the non-Muslim students attending our school. That is what remains until now. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he said, the kind person is close to God, is close to mankind, close to the heaven, and far from the hell. And as for the miser, very far from God, far from his creation, far from his paradise, but very close to the hell. Kindness, my beloved gathering, it is a language which the deaf can hear, the blind can see. In our final analysis, it's not what we have, but what we give. Dr.
Ameena
Ameena
Gafoor
is an
is an
excellent
excellent
example
example
of time
of time
management
management
or
or
achievements
achievements
mere
mere
testimony.
testimony to this.
A man
A man who dares to waste
1
1 hour of life
has not
has not discovered
the value
the
of
value
life.
of life.
Let us
Let us
emulate
emulate
her good
her good
traits
traits
and invest
wisely in our time
and
and
fulfill
fulfill
both
both
obligations
obligations
towards the
towards the
Creator
Creator
and His
and His creation.
Al-Crichton
Al-Crichton
beautifully
put it like his words
in
in
his
his
remarks
in his eulogy about Dr. Ameena Gafoor.
He said,
He said,
steadfast and persevering
against the persistent force
of a
of a
prevailing
prevailing wind.
Her life
Her life
was
was
marked
marked by
resilience
resilience
and
and
grace,
grace,
which
which
serve
serve
as a model of
triumph
triumph over
over
adversity.
adversity.
These are the
These are the
characteristics,
characteristics, my dear gathering,
of a
of a
believer
believer
in God
in
Almighty.
God Almighty.
As we
We
celebrate
celebrate
her
her life today.
may her achievements inspire us to follow her example and contribute and continue to contribute towards the upliftment of humanity. Guyana is poorer without Dr. Ameena Gafoor. She is gone, but will not be forgotten. I pray Allah, God Almighty, grant her the full rewards of her good deeds in the hereafter, which we all believe in, and which gives purpose to our existence here. And we ask the Almighty to grant her successors who will uphold her good legacy. O Allah, forgive her. O Allah, grant her Jannah, grant her paradise and eternal happiness in the hereafter. Ameen. And thank you for listening. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Brother Moeen. Next, I invite Major General Joe Singh to share his tribute. Major General Singh is a distinguished son of the soil who has served in various capacities in the military and beyond. His contributions to national development and leadership are well known. Major General.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. I'm honored to be here this afternoon, having been invited by my dear brother, my elder brother, Dr. Gafoor, who asked me to make a few remarks. We were not related by blood, but we knew each other for many years. And my family and I regard him as an elder brother and Ameena as an elder sister, and that is a relationship we've had for decades. Formally, our paths intersected in 3 areas, which I would like to highlight. The first being at the Theatre Guild, which was undergoing renovation about 20 years ago. And David E. Kears and I were asked to chair and be vice chair of the fundraising committee. We had to raise $100 million in 1 year, which we did. And that was due to the support we received from GAFSONs, other corporates, the government of Guyana, and of course the Guyanese public as a whole, either in kind. But she was there always counseling and giving advice. Her network was very active, and she made it a point to use the phone and to call asking for contributions to this very important aspect of our cultural life in Guyana, the Theatre Guild. The second had to do with the Arts Journal, which of course she was the editor and published 13 volumes, which are part of her legacy. You can Google those journals and actually find a lot of food for thought. She felt that this was important to capture information, to have that not filed away in some archive, but very actively pursued and being an instrument for young people especially, budding artists, writers, historians, and so on. She was very gracious in actually reviewing a book I published growing up in British Guyana, 1945 to 1964. The third mention was made of Dr. Budendra Dubé, who was here. Our paths intersected when a very famous Guyanese, Dr. Nicholson, a urologist, then based in Jamaica at the University of the West Indies, felt it necessary to establish a kidney foundation in Guyana. And a number of us were asked by Dr. Nicholson, Dickinson Ali, Terry Holder, Dr. Derry Harry, and others to pioneer that foundation. This was during the tenure of Minister Ramsamy. Very shortly after, Dr. Dubé approached us and said he wanted to convert his family property at Annandale into a dialysis center to facilitate those Guyanese Canadians who, when they came back to Guyana, could not have access to dialysis treatment. And he felt it important to create this facility, converting his own family property. And those of you who pass by Annandale now will see what started as a humble abode of the Dubé family, mushrooming into a dialysis center service, providing service to many, unfortunately, many young Guyanese. So for me, it was a special relationship, one where I respected her and her scholarship, her astuteness, her unselfishness, along with her dear husband, bringing up 3 fine children, Riyadh, Omar, and Raphael. I don't think Raphael is here, is he? He is in Ireland. One, a consultant urologist, one, a consultant psychiatrist, and one, a CEO and an engineer. 3 fine young men who are part of the legacy of Sattar and Ameena. On behalf of my family, on behalf of those who we have interacted with over the years, I wish to extend our sincere condolences, as well as our thanks to the family for sharing Ameena with us. She was a remarkable woman. She's an exemplar, and I hope that young professionals will take note of her career and her unselfishness and work assiduously to emulate her and her achievements, which are part and parcel of her legacy. May Allah, on whom be peace, receive her into her bosom, and may Sattar, your children, your grandchildren, your extended family find comfort in the remarkable achievements. I should mention also that I advise you to look at the website of the AmeenaGafoorinstitute.com. Many of you will be struck by the amount of research being done there in indentureship and movement of persons from Fiji, Mauritius, and India, of course, into places like Guyana, British Guyana as it was then, the Caribbean, South Africa, and listen to the monologues and draw inspiration from our ancestors and try to emulate and be thankful for the culture, the religion, the attributes, all of which were captured by Ameena in her life. May God have mercy on our soul, and may you find comfort in her life on earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Major General. I'd like to ask if Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis is here. Yes, she is. We will now ask Ms. Natasha Singh Lewis, who will be speaking on behalf of former President David Granger. Ms. Singh Lewis is a sitting member of Parliament.
Thank you, Russell. Assalamu alaikum to my non-Muslim brothers and sisters. May the guidance of Almighty God be with us all. A tribute by former Presidents, His Excellency David Granger, for Dr. Ameena Gafoor. It reads, "The decade of the 1940s was an extraordinary period in history that generated a who's who register for outstanding, great Guyanese. Now in their 80s, each contributed a special talent and each earned a special niche in our national annals. That generation was challenged to overcome the difficulties and distress of growing up in colonial British Guyana. Amid pervasive rural poverty, social segregation, political exclusion, which denied the franchise to the majority of the population, education limitation without a national university, and cultural domination, which suppressed local creativity. Dr. Ameena Gafoor, born in 1941, was a daughter of the decade of the 40s, a generation for whom hard work, religious faith, and strong social bonds were the foundation of existence. Challenged by that adversity, that generation set high standards of cultural and intellectual accomplishments and performed a pivotal role in Guyana's transition from a plantation society to an independent nation over the past 50 years. Dr. Gafoor, in private, professional, and public life, was not a firebrand. Yet, she quietly refused to be constrained by conventions and customs which curbed women's creativity. She was driven by a calm quest for knowledge and a commitment to the common good. I was happy, as chairman of the Guyana Book Foundation, to welcome Ameena onto the board. She brought us her passion, not as a passive academic, but as a progressive and active practitioner and literary publisher. It was my honor as President of Guyana to personally present her with the much-deserved National Award of the Golden Arrow of Achievement, which you see before you today. On the 6th of October 2017, for which she was cited for her continuing and outstanding contributions to literature, the arts and culture, and to education. 7 years later, she has added other accolades through her exceptional work in education, literature, the arts, and culture. Dr. Ameena Gafoor measurably enhanced the Foundation's operations with her insights as a publisher and editor. She has permanently established her reputation as an academic at our national university. She will be remembered always as a contributor to our cultural history, in which that have enriched the nation. Guyana is grateful for her life's labor. We need many more Ameenas today. May her soul rest in eternal peace. End of tribute. To my brother, Uncle Sattar, life will never be the same, losing your spouse. I sat in a chair one day, like you, when I lost your brother Louis. But I can tell you, Allah has been merciful, and He will be merciful to you. Inna lillahi wa inna ilahi raji'un. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Singh Lewis. I now invite Dr. Bud Dubé and to be followed by Professor Azim Ganj to offer their tributes. Dr. Dubé, a respected medical professional and community leader who was recently conferred with the Order of Canada, who is also the founder and director of the Dubé Gafoor Medical Center, of which Ameena Gafoor was also a director and founding member. while Professor Ganj is head of transplant of kidney at McMaster's University.
Thank you, Mr. Lancaster. Satar, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Medical Center and our directors who are here, Mohammed Najab, our company secretary, Mr. Komal Samru, and also Roop, somewhere here, I would imagine. I would like to represent the center today. Had it not been for Ameena, we would not have 4 centers in Guyana today. Whenever we needed money, and we sent money from Canada, we got some money here, and I would ask that we buy the other building. Satar will not budge very readily. Ameena, at 4 o'clock in the morning, having finished her namaz, we go with 2 cups of tea, climb 7 steps, 2 bananas, and 2 cups of tea. Give it to Satar. Satar will say, let us discuss family issues. I don't want to hear the name Dubé. She will then say, as you say Dubé, this is what we need at the Dubé Center. He said, but I tell you, I don't want to hear about Dubé. And he eventually has bowed to her. And had it not been for Ameena, not Satar, had it not been for Ameena, we would not have had what we have there today. It is Ameena who has done it for us. Because Satar, he's a businessman. You know what a businessman do? Spend money, he wants to know how much money he can get back. But you all don't know how, you all don't have an idea how Ameena was good. She will go with a bag full of money and a bag full of goods to the center. And the people them know her well. They say, oh God, Mrs., you know, may not see good. How much money you want? You want so much money. They got money, give it to them. Food. She buys food and give it to them. The people at the center are the happiest when Ameena goes. She go with a full bag of money and she come home with country. You know, you all know country? I haven't seen country for a long time. You cannot teach in front. But anyhow, she comes back with an empty bag. This is Ameena. Ladies and gentlemen, it's difficult. You know, Professor Ganji here, he write out his thing on a telephone. He said, Mr. Man, you will talk for man, but why you write out, but talk? He said, oh, I can't talk. I'm telling you today that had it, what I would like the message, if she's hearing me, if her soul is here, Ameena, had it not been for you, people would not have been treated like what they are. There's no one who come to our center. They come sometimes with $2,000. You know what's the dialysis they charge over here? $15,000. So they come with so they come with no money. You think we can turn away? I tell them, turn away, man. Ameena said, no, that we can't do that, we can't do that. We got it. I said, but Ameena, we don't got no money. He said, well, what are we going to do? Anyhow, government is helping us a little bit, helping patients a little bit now, but it's still a lot is because of what the center does, and it's because of this lady. She is the one who has put her foot down and said that we will do the work where if people come to see a doctor, they must not have an unnecessary investigation where it will cost them extra money. You all don't know all these things, but it's a lot. So she has done a lot. And Satar, I know, will miss her tremendously. Because Satar and I spoke quite a bit prior when Ameena got ill and before that. And he told me he would not have been the person what he is today had it not been for Ameena. And this speaks more volumes. And before I make you all borer, I would like to say that no words can say, or no one here today can say what Ameena meant to poor people in this country. I will ask Professor Ganji. Should I introduce him or you already?
Yes, please do.
Professor Ganji, who is a professor of medicine at McMaster University, who has been to this country, how many times have you been here? Over 12 times? Or more? 12. Whenever he comes, he pays his own passage. All the nephrologists, they pay their own passage. They pay their own hotel bill, and he's only here to make the center better. He's a professor of medicine, head of transplant, of renal transplant at McMaster University, and a great, great philanthropist. He knew Ameena very well, as he.
Thank you very much, and it's such an opportunity to speak to all of you today, and good afternoon. On behalf of McMaster University Division of Nephrology and St. Joseph's Hospital in Hamilton, truly Mrs. Gafoor was certainly a wonderful role model here for all of you in Guyana, but she actually made an impact internationally and right into Canada. And I first met Mrs. Gafoor really, and the first thing that came to me was her amazing warmth and generosity. She's such a kind woman, always has a smile on her face, always is so willing to share and always so willing to help. And her generosity really, in many ways, knew no bounds. And you could see that in the dialysis unit when she would help people out. She would sit down, and it wasn't just financially. She would actually sit down with the patients, talk to them, hear and listen to them, and listen to their concerns. And sometimes that's the actual treatment that the patients want at that time. And she was always there to deliver that. And she really understood their plight. She really understood the difficulties that they were going through. And that takes a very special person to be able to communicate with those individuals and understand their situation. Mrs. Gafoor was a really special woman. She was really multidimensional in so many different ways. I'm actually learning more about her than I thought I knew, and I thought I knew her quite well. A real artist, an author, and an academic, and a really wonderful, special lady that will certainly be missed. When you summarize things, I would just say that Mrs. Gafoor was going to leave us an amazing legacy, a legacy of making sure that we protect society, that we look after each other, and that we take care of each other, and a legacy of kindness and compassion and of caring. And we must never lose that legacy and the message she has brought to us, because there are very few Ameena Gafoors that will come by in our lives, and we have just lost one right now. But we must always cherish her wonderful memories and keep that going so that for the betterment of all people in the future. Thank you.
Thank you both. Professor Paloma Mohammed, 11th and first female Vice Chancellor of the University of Guyana, is unfortunately unable to be here today. She's out of Guyana. And she has asked Travana Aziz to represent her. Is Travana here? Yes, she is. Please welcome Travana Aziz to the podium.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to everyone, all protocols observed. It is my privilege to bring this tribute on behalf of the University of Guyana and the Vice Chancellor, Professor Paloma Mohammed Martin, who is on her way back to Guyana and regrets she cannot attend to pay her respect in person. The University of Guyana is deeply saddened by the passing of our dearest former lecturer, author, researcher, benefactor, and recipient of an honorary degree of Doctor of Letters, Dr. Ameena Gafoor. To paraphrase the words written and read by the university's official master orator, Al Crichton, at the conferral ceremony in 2022, Ameena was a symbol of endurance and enlightenment, a flame providing light, steadfast and persevering against the persistent force of a prevailing wind. Her life, well lived, provides a model of illumination and hopeful victory over darkness in times of adversity. The university, even in this moment, celebrates an individual who triumphed over humble and difficult beginnings. A mother, wife, grandmother, literary critic, researcher, editor, anthologist, cultural activist, creative writer, philanthropist, and social worker. Dr. Gafoor was the founder and editor of the literary academic publication, The Arts Journal, the founder and director of the Arts Forum, with a special interest in the visual arts and Indian art. She was a member of the jury for the Guyana Prize for Literature and has 4 literary publications, including an autobiography and the forthcoming bibliography of Guyanese writers, which she was making final arrangements for at the time of her passing. She was a feminist critic and a Muslim woman who wrote in the context of Islamic womanhood in Guyana, which is rare and can only otherwise be found in the work of a handful of other Guyanese women. Mistress Gafoor established the Ameena Gafoor Institute, a cultural, literary, intellectual, artistic, and research center set up in her name, which headquarters in England and managed by the Institute's director, Professor David Dabidin. The Ameena Gafoor...
Pause for a short moment as the President comes in. Please stand for the arrival of His Excellency, President Dr. Hamid Irfan Ali. Please be seated.
The Ameena Gafoor Institute advances research and scholarship in a number of areas, including the history, wide-ranging studies, and literature of Indian indentureship. Among other things, Mistress Gafoor was the CEO of the Gafoor's Foundation, and along with her husband, hardware mogul Dr. Sattar Gafoor, recently gifted the University of Guyana its multi-purpose center, which is in its final stage of completion. The university records its deep appreciation for her life and contributions and extends its deepest condolences on behalf of Chancellor Professor Edward Green, Vice Chancellor Professor Paloma Mohammed Martin, Deputy Vice Chancellors, senior management team, faculty, staff, and students, in particular from the Faculty of Education and Humanities, with which she is closely associated. Deepest sympathy to her husband, children, and loved ones. May her soul rest in absolute peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Travana, on behalf of Vice Chancellor Dr. Paloma Mohammed Martin. I'll now ask artist Bernadette Passad to come to the podium to offer a short tribute. She worked along with Ameena Gafoor for many years.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think Russell and another friend cooked up this speech for me. Ameena was essentially a very radical person. She wasn't just pleasant. Now, if you knew Ameena very well, Ameena had false names for a lot of people. And that was what I was ready tickled about. For the high and mighty, Ameena had most apt false names. Now, her false names were really very apt. They summed up the people, and those are the people of power. But Ameena was a very humble person, and I found her very radical, very amusing with her nicknames for everyone of power. All the powerful ones in Guyana would receive nicknames from Ameena. Now, sorry about this. The power has gone. I shouldn't really be talking about powerful people because now power is gone from the mic. I knew Ameena very well when we collaborated on the Arts Journal, and it was a delight to work on the journal.
That's the message.
Gonna get the other two. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. In working on the Arts Journal, Ameena showed her true colors. Many times, she would emphasize the marginalized in the society, culturally marginalized, should be emphasized in the journal. The journal was not for the powerful, it was for those who were not acknowledged in the society, culturally as well. That was one of her main concerns, that cultural marginalization, which is very prevalent in Guyana, and which is reflected in our official culture, should be emphasized in the journal. Now, I was very pleased about that, and often we would stress what was not acknowledged in the wider society in the Arts Journal. Frequently, people who were marginalized, we sought out because we didn't want to just emphasize who was powerful, who was well represented, and Ameena in particular was pleased with that. So the journal featured what was not culturally represented in officialdom, who was marginalized, who was not known. Ameena tried to bring out those people. Now that shows how she was. She was a very kind person, very humble person, very willing to be radical at times, and I don't think people who are in her kind of position would be tolerant of that kind of thing. Ameena was also very concerned about ordinary people, poor people, the handicapped. and you could see where her interests were. She was concerned about her heritage, her roots. So we decided that she decided we would emphasize, bring out that emphasis. Roots, her heritage, what was not so well known in Guyanese society. I think so.
Okay. Are you done?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Bernadette Prasad. We'll now ask Ameena's grandchildren, Alia, accompanied by Asha, who will now share reflections.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For those of other faiths, may the peace and blessings of God be with you all. All protocols observed. I'd firstly like to thank all of you for being here today. Your support truly means a lot to me and my family. I know it was beyond hectic for some trying to find flights. I can attest to that. So thank you for making the effort. I wanted to share a few of my favorite memories of my grandmother. I called her Az. When I was a baby, just learning to speak, she asks that I call her Aji, which means grandma or grandmother. Now, I couldn't pronounce Aji at such a young age, so I said Az instead. And that name, Az, stuck for the rest of her life. When I was younger, living in Guyana, we spent a lot of time together, whether that was just hanging out in her office and talking or going out together, like going to the trampolines at the seawall. Az has always been an integral part of my life. Even after I moved to Barbados, when I was 2 years old, we'd visit her and my granddad numerous times a year in Guyana. I'm now 18, and the only year we didn't travel to visit her was in 2020 during COVID. She and my grandfather would plan an itinerary prior to our arrival so that when we'd arrive in Guyana, we'd go over that itinerary as soon as we got home. They always planned to do something every day until we left, and one of our favorite activities was going fishing at the Land of Canaan outlet. And of course, no trip to Guyana was complete without sleepovers every night. But even on some days when we wouldn't leave the house, I enjoyed just spending time with her in her office and talking. We mainly spoke about school because she was heavily involved and invested in my academic life. Literature, personally, was never my strong suit. So whenever I needed help, I would call her, and she explained everything to me so well, I always used to understand. She was a great teacher as well. Even after she became unwell, she told me to still send her my work so that she could help, and she did help very much. Az loved to look at Jeopardy on evenings, so we'd watch it after eating dinner every night. One of my favorite memories is that whenever I'd score highly on tests and assignments in school, she'd take me to Sheraton Mall to go shopping in Barbados. She always made me feel so special when I received a good score, and she would always make a special trip to Barbados and tell me we need to go splurging. She used that word specifically, splurge. And shoe shopping was always our favorite. We'd go to this store called Thani's before Payless opened in the mall. I promise you I'm not that old. But we'd also shop for clothes and toys. And we'd always end our shopping sprees by going to our favorite pizza place. Over time, it became more difficult for her to go and do these activities and to travel. So my grandfather would take us out for drives. I call my grandfather Gaga because, again, I couldn't pronounce grandpa when I was young. So I just said Gaga, and it was actually my first word. So Gaga would take us out on these drives, and we'd stop at this little gas station just down the road from our home in Cummings Lodge to get popsicles. Now, we'd buy like about 20 popsicles at once, and every time we went in, the cashier would be just looking at us crazy, like, what are we doing with all these popsicles, right? So Az would have one of the popsicles, and then we'd go around to some of the other outlets and distribute the others to some of the members of staff who lived there. We'd also listen to Elvis along the way. Gaga's a big fan of Elvis. And we'd also listen to other songs on his playlist. These drives became the new norm, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. They were peaceful until my brother opened his mouth to sing. Now, after recalling all these memories, I realized that they're not so extravagant. They're simple, but that's what was so great about them. And what can't be conveyed in words is how much these times meant to me and still mean to me. The trips to Guyana, the sleepovers, Jeopardy, fishing, the shopping sprees, all of them became so habitual in my life that they gained a deeper meaning, and it was something I always looked forward to whenever I spent time with her. Even though we would go to the same place to fish, the same mall to splurge, to the same stores, to the same pizza place, watch the same show every evening, and go to the same seawall, I never got bored of it because I was spending invaluable, irreplaceable quality time with her, and it brought me so much happiness. I've definitely missed our times together, and I will always miss them. It felt strange coming here and not seeing her. It made me feel off not going into her room to greet her and just sit down with her. And I felt sad when I saw people sat at the dining table at home and she wasn't there. I miss seeing her and speaking to her and making her laugh. And I miss hearing her jokes too. Even up to the last time I saw her, she was still cracking jokes. I remember recently, just last month, Gaga asked her on their wedding anniversary if she remembered how long they'd been married, to which she replied, "Long enough." It's your turn.
While my sister and I are still very much in disbelief that we never get those moments, that we will never get those moments again with her, we're also happy and grateful that they even happened in the first place. Even though we will only have these precious memories and stories and pictures to remember her by, we're glad that we have so much to remember her by.
As we will always carry you in our hearts as the happy person you were. We love you so, so much. Inna lillahi wa inna ilahi raji'un.
Verily to Allah we belong, and surely to Him we will return.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alia and Asha. We'll now ask the sons of Ameena Gafoor, first Omar and then Ray Gafoor, to offer tributes.
Thank you. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For those of all the faiths, may the peace and blessings of God be with you. All protocols observed. We are gathered here today to say goodbye to my mother, Dr. Ameena Gafoor, who I am sure is known to many both in our country and afar. Not because of glamour and fame, but because as a teacher, literary critic, publisher, director of various companies and organizations, but more so through her charitable work, she's touched the lives of many, many people, giving voice to the voiceless, support for the disadvantaged, shelter for those without a roof over their heads, and more importantly, education for those who may otherwise be excluded. As a member of a rather extended family made up of the Gafoor, Kadir, and Chan clans. She was very respected for her counsel and for her desire for all of us to live together with love, respect, and camaraderie, which was no mean feat, given that many of us are hard-headed, stubborn, own way, and given to occasional pettiness. But love we do. Far more importantly, she was a wife to our father Sattar, a mother to 3 boys, Omar, Arif, and Riyadh, a mother-in-law to Sherry and to Alyssa, and a grandmother to 4 doting grandchildren, my daughter Aliyah, my son Asher, and my brother Riyadh's 2 boys, Leo and Alex. She was a cherished member of our small immediate household, known for her humor and quick smile and laughter. Family gatherings were joyous occasions. There is an old joke that says that some people have a face that only a mother can love. And while that can be funny and have some truth, it also hides many other truths about what a mother really is. So allow me to please share some of our shenanigans growing up and how they shaped us. Our mother loved us unconditionally, no matter what the situation was, even if she was upset with us for whatever reason. So for example, she still loved us after I happened to pedal my tricycle at full speed around the living room, crashed into her precious china cabinet, and broke almost everything in it. Yes, she still loved us, teaching us that love was unconditional. By the way, I blame my brother for that one. He was the one pushing me. Our mother supported us through many undertakings we had, providing encouragement and criticism when needed, and wagging a finger in admonishment when something was a no-no. So, cutting a piece off the bottom of the mosquito netting to make a net to catch cackabelly from the drain outside the gate was definitely a no-no. Got no support. Other than that, wholesome activities were recommended, but may not necessarily have been followed. Our mother guided us when she felt that guidance was needed and teaching what was right and appropriate and what was not. So removing the bottom louvers out the louver window and then sticking your bombs out the window to moon the people passing the street is definitely inappropriate. Again, that wasn't me, but my aforementioned sibling might have had a better recollection. Our mother was fun, bringing our family closer with laughter and camaraderie. One Christmas, after having tired of telling Dad not to turn on the bedroom light in the middle of the night when he wanted to write down something he used as dictaphone, she gave him a very special Christmas present. So Dad opened the gift bag and there was a string at the top. So he pulled it. String came up and there was a notepad attached to it. String kept going, so he kept pulling, there was a pen. Kept pulling, there was a candle. And then finally, a box of matches came out of the bag. And the message was, stay quiet, don't turn on the light. Our mother forgave us for almost any transgression. I was thankfully forgiven for not keeping a close eye on my baby brother when he was sleeping, and not noticing when he rolled out of the crib and under the bed wrapped up in blankets, nearly giving my poor mother a heart attack wondering where her baby disappeared to. Ray, I love you, boy. But we thrived. Our mother cared, nurtured, and molded us, ensuring that we grew and matured emotionally and morally and spiritually into productive members of society. Our mother led us and supported us as we crawled, stumbled, and learned to navigate our way in our youth, and then followed us to ensure that we made the right decisions when we ventured out bravely into the world, alone, but not yet entirely alone, with just a touch on our shoulder, a quiet word in our ear when needed. Over the years, these lessons of laughter, love, support, guidance, forgiveness, caring, nurturing, compassion, modesty, and humility were reinforced and ingrained in us by observing and experiencing our mother's own actions and accomplishments in her various undertakings, personal, educational, and charitable, as she made her own mark on so many others, and for which she's been recognized nationally. She shaped 3 young boys to be confident men with all of these attributes, to thrive in and make their own contributions, to an ever-changing world. We are eternally grateful to our mother. And now she has left us, and we stand here suddenly feeling vulnerable, left to face the world on our own. We have to carry on, but we know and take great comfort in the fact that she fully prepared us for what we have to face, and that she will be forever at our side with a touch on our shoulder or a word in our ear from time to time. Mom, we miss you terribly. You left too soon, and we could not say goodbye. We will love you forever. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Surely to Allah we belong, and to Him we will all return. Thank you.
We'll now ask the other brother to step forward.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum. To those of other faiths, may the peace and blessings of God be with you all. All other protocols observed. Today, our world is a little bit emptier, a little bit sadder, and a little bit more faded. But really, we're here to celebrate the life of Ameena Gafoor. For my mother was already the antidote for many of life's hardships. Mom taught me, my brothers, her grandchildren, her colleagues, friends, relatives, really anyone who would pay attention and observe what it means to act with kindness and generosity. That by showing those who suffer that you're not alone, that someone cared and is willing to help, that we can make the world a better place to live in. My mother would never hesitate to provide anyone with a meal, as we have heard. If you came to Dubai Medical Center without lunch, it would be provided for. She would never hesitate to provide a tuition, medication, to assist with the purchase or improvement of your home. Many persons have asked for a little help to extend a study or a new addition to the family, a child's room, and it was provided for. Or even to help you to realize your career path, whatever it was. She espoused the virtues of self-sacrifice and philanthropy, of placing other people's needs above her own, of serving your community to the best of your ability, and in doing so, doing it with humility. My mother showed us how to love each other, how to speak to each other with kindness, gentleness, and respect, no matter the situation. Nary an angry word was ever said to anyone, no matter how well you managed to get on her bad side. If you ever managed to hear her raised voice, well, brother man, you'd really messed up in her books. Rather, her stern tone was reserved for her children. And boy, was that ever served up in bounty. Maths homework not done, but you in your infinite wisdom decided to stay out past sunset and play cricket. That was bound to elicit her ire, and you would hear it when you came home eventually. But that's because what she was really teaching us is how to hold yourself to a higher standard. You see, my mother taught me first and foremost how to believe in myself, and to this day, I regard this as one of my strongest qualities. And that comes from her own eternal, maternal, and sometimes, to be quite honest, blinded and misguided belief in me. But my mother was still always my biggest supporter. She encouraged me and my brothers on whenever we stumbled in academics, in achieving our goals and aspirations, in trying to learn to play a musical instrument, no matter what you were ready to fail and give up at, Ameena Gafoor would not have it. Many times I tried to pitch piano lessons, but her persistence became mine. Mom was always there to pick you up one more time than you had fallen, and oftentimes that's all you needed to succeed in life. I still cannot play the piano, but I know almost every one of you here has had some similar experience with my mother, where she encouraged you to pursue your own goals or some joint goals that you may have had, to overcome your own difficulties and failures, and to press on and find a way to succeed. Through her dedication to and love for literature, Mom taught us all how to love the arts. The value and beauty of words, pictures, drawings, poetry, in short, all the good and bad of the human condition. She taught us to see the color and splendor when it was well hidden by the harsh realities of everyday life. You see, my mother was a teacher early on in this life. One of her first career paths was as a teacher. And she taught us all how to live. So although the world is a little darker and a little quieter, a little sadder without her, by teaching us all, including the future generations, how to bring light to those around us and within ourselves, it's also a lot brighter, happier, a lot more colorful, kinder, and warmer for her. So the matriarch of our immediate and extended family is gone, but instead of finding a void, I only see an abundance of light and love. And that is my mother's legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Umar. We'll now hear a tribute from Dr. Nazreen Kadir, sister of Ameena Gafoor.
Assalamu alaikum. Is this working now?
Yes.
His Excellency Dr. Irfan Ali, other dignitaries present, the esteemed members of the Muslim Jamaat who have been so supportive of my family through many of these occasions, thank you for your ongoing support. Maulana Badruddin, Sheikh Moin Haq, we very much appreciate what you've done for us this week. Friends and family of Mrs. Ameena Gafoor, it is indeed an honor to address you on this auspicious occasion to pay tribute to my dear sister Ameena, and on behalf of the Kadir family, of which several members are present, my nephews Ayub, Ashik, and Sean Kadir, my niece Roseanne Kadir, and my cousins Zamin, Reza, and Sharu Chan, all of whom are very dear and close to Ameena. I also convey regrets from my last surviving sibling, Abdul Hamid Kadir in California, who could not be with us here today. By now you may be asking, how is it possible for a single human being to be loved and respected by so many from different walks of life and endeavors? The answer is simple. Ameena cared deeply for kith and kin and the welfare of her fellow human beings. You will hear today of her numerous contributions. I will not elaborate on that. I will try to answer the question, how? In exquisite literary style, Ameena delved into her early life in Triumph Village in her latest publication, Lantern in the Wind. I was the pink baby sister to whom she referred and my sibling's new toy. She was 7 when I was born. Instilled in us were Quranic teachings which laid the guardrails for our conduct. To Muslims, Islam is a way of existence, not passive religiosity. In our household, tafsir, or interpretations of the Holy Quran, as revealed to the Holy Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, commingled with Shakespearean quotes that spoke of the family, duality in human nature with examples of good and evil, and overlaced with the teachings of Jesus, Prophet Isa in Islam and the Quran on the virtues of giving. We attended a Catholic primary school in the village because, to quote my grandmother Mariam, I don't trust what the government is putting in your head these days, meaning 1950s to 1960s, a period of political unrest in Guyana. And when the headmaster of St. Peter's Roman Catholic School retired, my grandmother promptly told my mother to disenroll us from that school and send us to the Anglican school. And when we rebelled, my grandmother said, you don't have to go to school. Not because you go to school means you're educated. Ameena observed my maternal grandmother Mariam and my uncle Yusuf literally give away Mariam's store to help the needy, giving credit to the poor who would have no way of repaying the debt. But in Islam, we are told to spend of what's given to you, and you will be rewarded. This is the essence of faith and submission to a higher power. Ameena was above all else a good Muslim. I would like to read to you the first 3 stanzas of this poem entitled On Giving by the late 19th to early 20th century Lebanese-American poet Khalil Gibran. You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. For what are your possessions but things you keep and guard for fear you may need them tomorrow? And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the overprudent dog bearing bones in the trackless sand as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city? And what is fear of need but need itself? It is not dread of thirst when your well is full, the thirst that is unquenchable. There are those who give little of the much which they have, and they give it for recognition, and their hidden desire makes their gifts unwholesome. And there are those who have little and give it all. These are the believers in life and the bounty of life, and their coffer is never empty. There are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. There are those who give with pain, and that pain is their baptism. And there are those who give, and know not pain in giving, nor do they seek joy, nor give the mindfulness of virtue. They give, as in yonder valley, the myrtle breathes its fragrance into space. Through the hands of such as these, God speaks, and behind their eyes, he smiles upon the earth. I believe Allah chose Ameena to intercede on our behalf, a vicegerent, if you will. And on this occasion, we ask Allah to bestow his mercy as her soul journeys to its final resting place. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nasrin Kadir. We'll now have a tribute from Mr. Muhammad Ali, former CEO of Gafson's Industries Limited.
Assalamu alaikum to our Muslim brothers and sisters, and to our non-Muslim brothers and sisters. May the peace and blessings of the Almighty be with you. Honorable President of the Republic of Guyana, Dr. Irfan Ali, and attendees all. I have known Ameena and the Gafoor family for over 30 years. During that time, I have been honored to be in Ameena's presence to discuss complex issues, implement actions, chit-chat, and rub satar quite often. There was never a dull moment with her around. She cared tremendously for others, example the staff at Gafson's, especially the poor, impoverished, disabled. She started an educational program at Gafson's to educate the uneducated. She was a believer in educating people. Ameena is a founding member of the Dubai and Gafoor Medical Center, where she provided at her expenses meals, transportation for patients at the center. I can also recall the discussion we had about the writings of Sattar's autobiography. She asked Muhammad, that's me, what should we use as a title? I said, Ameena, let's use comedy and tragedy. With a twinkle in her eye and a burst of laughter, she said, Muhammad, we have yet to get Sattar to pay for the blood filters for the center, the debate center. She never failed to express her opinion, calmly and forcefully make her point, and how she felt about his use. I remember when Sattar was designing Houston, she looked at it and asked Sattar, what are you building? Sattar replied, a shopping center. She said, Sattar, this looks like a dressed up shed. Note how subtle she said it, she made her point. And because of that comment, a dressed up shed, that is how the atrium at Houston was built. So she had her ways of getting things done. Today, as we gather to pay her respects, and with much sorrow in my heart, I would say that the children and grandchildren have lost a good and fantastic mother and grandmother. To Sattar, a beautiful, loving, and caring partner. To Guyana, an icon. And to humanity, a blessed soul and a good human being. On behalf of myself and family, we pray that Allah grant her everlasting rest and peace. We will all miss you, Ameena. Rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. And now, I think the most important tribute today, I will invite Dr. Sattar Gafoor, CCH, Ameena's husband, to share his tribute. Dr. Gafoor is known throughout Guyana as a prominent businessman and philanthropist, and his partnership with Ameena was one of mutual support and commitment to uplifting their family and community. Dr. Gafoor.
Thank you, Master of Ceremonies. Your Excellency, President Ali, all protocols being observed. A speech that is made extemporaneously without notes is one that is better received. Unfortunately, I am unable to make such a speech without the aid of notes, for which I ask forgiveness. On behalf of my family, I thank all who are here for my wife's last rites. First and foremost, I wish to thank those who took care of my wife during her illness. They are Indrani Dino Saran, known as Baby, who was Ameena's right hand for more than 20 years. Alma Peters, Emily Rahoman, Nadir Singh, Mr. and Mrs. Shangi, Dr. Soni, Dr. Gancham Singh, Dr. Wilberg, Nurse Blair, Nurse Fortune, Nurse Haywood, Nurse Moore, and Nurse Nero. A tribute to my wife of 61 years. For a better education for their children in 1953, my parents decided to take up residence in Georgetown. At the same time when the British Guyana Constitution was suspended. For the first time, I saw white people armed to the hilt. Within a few days of my arrival in Georgetown, I was registered at the Central High School. At the beginning of each term, the late J. Sila, the owner of Central High School, would announce those who have earned free tuition for that term. For my class among the names, there were often than not Yudhishthir Singh and Ameena Kadir. I wrote the senior Cambridge exams in 1957, and whilst Ameena got grade 1, including Yudhishthir Singh, and James Mangar, my friend, grade 2, I barely passed to grade 3. When they went to school, I went to work because my father was very ill. And they also say I dropped in school from my way from work. I left school in November '59 and went to work with my father. My uncle, who was older than my father, insisted that I return to school, which I did in September 1958. With 2 terms lost, I sought and obtained the help from Ameena. The exercise book she lent me had on the outside cover the portraits of the king and queen. On the portrait of the king, I wrote my name. On the portrait of the queen, I wrote hers. When the book was returned, Ameena Kadir literally dug out the names and of any more lending of books. With 2 friends, among whom was James Mangar, who is presently here, we decided to visit Ameena at her home at Hawatin to apologize what I have done, but she was not there. When her mother came out to receive us, the first question she asked, "Who is Adar?" I nearly fell off the chair. I explained what happened. I may have impressed Ameena's mom, who maybe saw me as a good future son-in-law. Because after that meeting, Ameena provided me with considerable support. Because of my poor use of the English language in essays, Ameena suggested I join the public library and to borrow books written by Marie Corelli, and instructed me to read the books for the sentence construction, the use of words, and not for the story. That provided me tremendous assistance, so much so that when I wrote Hyacinth, I passed not only with Latin, maths, but surprisingly English language. We both left school in 1959 because of the tragedy of a family in Ketley Street, at which 2 members were murdered, including a daughter who was also at Central High School and was the same age as Ameena's. That family, a distant relative of the Kadirs, at the request of Ameena's mom, allowed her to stay in Ketley Street. Yes, this proved an advantage to me. Living now in Georgetown, Ameena started to study law, lectured by Fred Wilson, an attorney. I would ride and wait for her at the corner of New Garden Street until her classes are over, and then I rode home. I rode with her to Ketley Street, claiming that I'm escorting her. In June 1962, she traveled to London to study law, but that was short-lived because within 6 months her mother died in January 1963. She then returned to Guyana to take care of her brothers and sisters, who were all in their teens. On her return, we got married on 29th of June 1963. That marriage bore 3 sons. Umar, who left in 1984 to study in London, obtained a degree in electronic engineering and returned to Guyana. He now runs the family businesses in Barbados, Grenada, and St. Lucia. Our second son, Raphael, is a doctor, resides in England and practices in England. He lectures over BBC on health-related matters. Riyadh, who is a doctor, resides in Jamaica and specializes in urology. When we were forced to leave Guyana because Ameena attended many of the meetings held by the late Walter Rodney, we took up residence in Barbados. Our 3 sons eventually went to universities abroad, but they will come home for Christmas. Our home was a center of learning for many Guyanese children who wished to help in their school subjects. It was also a place as a home for those Guyanese at the University of West Indies who could not pay their school fees because of shortage of foreign exchange, which was a problem in Guyana at that time. Many slept on carpets on the floor for many nights. Whilst in Barbados, Ameena enrolled at the University of West Indies, where she obtained her bachelor's and master's degree. We returned to Guyana at the invitation of the late Chetty Chagan in 1992. And Ameena continued her studies and was awarded a doctorate in English language. She founded the Arts Journal, which was a critical perspective on contemporary literature, history, art, and culture of Guyana and the Caribbean. She wrote another book titled The Lantern in the Wind. A week before her death, she completed another book, which is presently with the publishers in London. When we got married, we had very little. We rented flats on Murray Street, around next to the police station, until finally we built our own home in Hatfield Street. Up to today, we do build several houses for homes at our cost. Ameena totally refuses to put any publication about these. Her view was to do so was an indignity and forgive me, to the recipient. Among my family, hers and other related families, she was always considered as the rock of Gibraltar, to whom many sought assistance in their home or personal matters. She was loved, adored, and respected, not only by the Gafoor and Kadi families, but by the many to whom she offers assistance. When my father was late to go to the bank, as he usually was, he would ask my wife to take her. Apparently, my father liked speed driving, as he himself was a motorcycle racer in his youth. One of what I would consider a great contribution to society was, together with Dr. Dubé, she launched the Dubé Medical Research Center at Annandale and one at Parika. Each morning when we lived in Iping Avenue, she would climb 15 stairs with a tray of 2 cups of tea, 2 bananas, when we discussed family affairs. Many mornings the topic was Dubé Medical Center. One morning I told her not to mention Dubé. You've done enough mention of Dubé. She promptly replied, now that you have mentioned the name Dubé, we need leave a standing amount of so much for people who cannot afford dialysis. Prior to Dubé Medical Center, the cost for dialysis was about $40,000 a session. 3 sessions, $120,000. Very few afforded it, and they remained at home to die. At DMC, the cost is an average of $10,000. And for those who are unable to pay, Ameena left a considerable sum deposit at the center to pay for those sessions. Every time she saw past President Marajagdu, she would ask for assistance to patients who were unable to pay. After several approaches, maybe past President Marajagdu thought, let me get rid of just so much. She asked him too often. And he conceded, and now the government contributes $600,000 per patient for per annum. Another one of Ameena's great achievements. And thanks to the Guyana government for that contribution. Whenever she brought 2 bananas for me, apple bananas, which I like, know this is trouble. She would ask that by June, sometime in June, she asked for further money. But I said, I mean, I already have given you enough for the whole year. She said, that is finished. So I said, well, where I get more money? She said, how many shares do I have? She's saying to me, how many shares does she have? I say 50%. How many shares you have? None. Don't they pay dividends? Well, I want dividends in advance. Well, in 2022, Ameena was diagnosed with ALS. It is a problem that affects the motor neuron in your brain, resulting from which you suffer from the use of your hands, legs, and speech. One of the greatest joys for me was to take her every afternoon for almost 2 hours ride, which included parking along the seaboard for fresh air. If I am late, she would ask Baby to find out where is her husband. Baby would say, he's in the traffic. Her response, you and he are lying. He just left her. I know him for more than 6 years. As she deteriorated, I suffered immensely. Just looking at this one, who in her former self was, in her own way, a brilliant, simple person, and whose contribution includes works on Indian indentation, which are now recognized at the University of Cambridge in England, one of the oldest education institutes in the world and even beyond. Ameena was truly a philanthropist and a cultural luminary. Her death has left a considerable void in the lives of many, my children, my grandchildren, and so many who depended on her. But above all, in my life, I shudder to think I'll be able to continue life without her support. She has been an anchor in my life. May Allah grant me the strength and courage and persistence to live without her. Thank you so much.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, a dear friend of Ameena and Sata Gafoor, whom you just heard mention of in his tribute, James Mangar, will make a short tribute.
Honorary dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, I feel honored to say a few words about my classmate and very close friend. We met at Central High School over 70 years ago. She was one of the brightest in class, and that was represented by the result that she got a grade 1 in the senior Cambridge exams, where Sinar and I got grade 2 and grade 3. She was a great scholar in the days that she even challenged the principal when we had Latin. She would contradict what the teacher was saying. And it reached such a stage that the arguments that went along between the two of them, she expelled and kicked Ameena out of the school. But that didn't prevent her from studying privately while we were attending school to write the exams. Secretly, a friend who was working in the office of the school gave her the details to go and write the exam. Of course, she passed with flying colors. She was always interested in education. I'm speaking here off the cuff, so please excuse me. She attended Central High School, following her sister Nisha, who was there before us. She had a great responsibility to take care of the family in the absence. Her mother had a great responsibility to look after the family while her father was away during the World War II. Mrs. Kadir, her mother, sorry about that, took care of the family and make sure that they all had their education. Ameena excelled academically. It was no surprise that she began taking legal classes from the eminent jurist Fred Wills. She went to England to pursue legal studies, but Sitar kept calling her and begging her, I would say, to come back. She relented and came back to Guyana, and they got married. I was present at that time. Their marriage was solidified by a simple Muslim nikah ceremony. I was in Guyana at the time of the births of Omar and Arif. She always wanted to pursue higher level of education, which led to the evening classes at the University of Guyana. I remembered her working at the Ministry of Health as a clerk to help at the time when Omar and Arif were growing up. She was always interested in academia, which led her to the University of Guyana, attending evening classes. I can read my own handwriting. She attended the University of West Indies and had put forward a PhD thesis to them. And they denied her the acknowledgement of her PhD because they said it took her too long. Only later years she was told that she should have appealed that decision by the university. However, she was not to be denied, as Cambridge University conferred on her a doctorate, and she became recognized as Dr. Ameena Gafoor. During all her studies, she carried out her responsibility of wife, mother, and student. She played an important role in the development growth of the family business. I recount many more stories in her life. She was extremely proud of her 3 sons who have excelled academically and are making great contribution to society. She was married to Sitar for over 60 years or more, yeah. I treasured her as a friend who was like a sister to me. May she rest in peace. Farewell and goodbye, my dear Ameena. You will surely be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manga. I've just been asked to add one more tribute before former President, Mrs. Shalimar Ali Haq, SC Director of Public Prosecutions, will now offer a very short tribute.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. Thank you, Brother Chairman, to His Excellency the President of Guyana, the former President of Guyana, former Prime Minister, all the other persons of government, to Brother Sattar Gafoor, his children, his grandchildren, his daughters-in-law, to Sister Amina's sister, and there will be nieces and nephews, because she was a family person and a humanitarian person to many Guyanese here in Guyana. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And to our non-Muslim friends, may God's guidance be with you. I stand here this afternoon to offer my condolences to Brother Sattar, his children, Sister Amina's sister, her children, the nieces and nephews, on the passing of a great daughter of Guyana. She did excellent when it came to the arts in Guyana and to philanthropic as well as humanitarian aspects. She, as Brother Qasim was, he called Sheikh Moin, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and he asked that we convey his sentiments in relation to her contribution to the Dr. Dubé Center. She was a great daughter of this soil. She helped the people of Guyana, especially in whatever way she could. And Brother Qasim was saying, Brother Sattar, that she would take the groceries that you had for the staff and she would even distribute it to the persons who she was helping from the Dr. Dubé Center. So kind was Sister Ameena. We pray that all her good deeds be recognized by Almighty Allah and it be an evidence for her in the barzakh and in the hereafter. And I urge especially her three sons, whom she loved very much, her daughters-in-law, as well as her grandchildren. May you follow her in her footsteps, follow her great example that she gave to you. Education was always her focus. We heard from the speaker before when he said that she was always focused on education. And I sometimes thought to myself that that was one of the bonds between she and Brother Sattar, in that he is always a person pursuing education and upholding a certain standard. She has done her part. She has served her people whom she could have served, and she has lived her life well. It's for her children and her grandchildren to now take over. And the nieces and the nephews, I personally know Roseanne, and I can attest to Roseanne's always being there with her, because we meet at the yoga classes and she will say, I went to see Auntie Ameena yesterday and she is not doing well. And at this point, Brother Sattar, I would like to make mention of you and your children's steadfastness in taking care of Sister Ameena. Within the last years, you've done an excellent job. You have left an example for your children to follow and for your grandchildren, because I'd be in their compound some afternoons when Sheikh goes to swim and I'd see them in the compound playing. They'd be up and down with the little toys. You have indeed left an example for them to learn. Take care of the older folks, and that is our duty in Islam, to take care of our parents. And you did that well, and so did your sons. They would always be coming in, and I would see them, and the daughters-in-law, I'd see them walking in the compound with the children. I extend heartfelt condolences to all, and may Allah accept all the good she has done and forgive her of any shortcomings she may have had. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Former President Donald Ramottar has been a long-standing advocate for social justice and has played a significant role in shaping the political landscape of Guyana. There is no doubt that he would have been impacted by Ameena Gafoor's sterling contribution to our country through her intellectual pursuits, advocacy, and philanthropy. Ladies and gentlemen, former President Donald Ramottar.
To the family, the close relative, the widower of Ameena Gafoor, current President Irfan Ali, former Prime Minister Nagamutu, and all distinguished friends here today. We are all here to share the grief of this family, because without doubt, we have lost a person of great quality and someone who has been able to traverse both worlds, I would say. The world of business, because I have no doubt in my mind that she made a very valuable contribution to the successful building of the Gafoor enterprise and making the Gafoor name a household name in our country. But she also brings to mind, her life brings to mind the famous biblical concept that man shall not live by bread alone. And she paid a great attention to the other non-material aspects of life that allows life to be enjoyable and allow us to appreciate some of the simple things of life. And even when you read her own writing about her development, even though you recognize the difficulties of the time of 1941, when our world was in danger, and when our country, most of the people in this country lived in poverty, and the impact must have impacted on her, yet her writing brought out some of the beauty even in those difficult times. And for that, we, all of us, will always be grateful. It is true that she lived a life that's worth celebrating. But it's also a fact of those who loved her and who were very, very close with her would be feeling tremendous pain at this time that we cannot help but grieve. And I often ask myself, why is it that we know that this is us in the future? That all of us will be here sometime or the other. And why do we grieve so much when we know that this is inevitable? And I believe that this is nature's way of telling us that life is our greatest possession, that life is beautiful, and that we must live it in such a way that we can make some form of contribution in whatever little way to make the place a better place. And if you reflect from where Mrs. Gafoor has come from, and from where we are at this point in time, I'm sure you would agree with me that this was a life that was well lived. When I heard the news of her passing, a poem came to my mind that I did. I'm not very much of a literary person, but it came to my mind when I used to go to primary school, and I thought that this poem captured some of the things that Mrs. Gafoor sought to give to other people. And this poem is called Leisure. And it began like this. This is all I remember all the time. What is this life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare. No time to stand beneath the boughs and stare as long as sheep and cows. No time to see when woods we pass, where squirrels hide their nuts in grass. No time to see in broad daylight streams full of stars like skies at night. No time to turn at beauty's glance and watch her feet, how they can dance. No time to wait till her mouth can enrich the smile her eyes began. A poor life this is, full of care. We have no time to stand and stare. And I think that that poem, in her own writing, it captures the simplicity of life and creates a comfort and a quality that she gives to all of us, rich or poor, that make life better. Once more, allow me to extend my deepest sympathy to all her loved ones and to say that you can be comforted by the quality of life that she has lived. And you are fortunate, like we as a nation is fortunate, that she produced quality works, and her name and her works will live on. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, President Ramatar. It is now my privilege to invite His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, to deliver his remarks. Please stand as we welcome His Excellency to the podium.
Thank you very much. Please. Mr. Gafoor, family, former President Ramatar, former Prime Minister Moses Nagamootoo, retired Major General Joe Singh, PPP, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. May the peace and blessings of God Almighty be with all of us. I had the opportunity to speak last night at the wake of Sister Ameena. On that occasion, I spoke on a more personal nature, on the attributes, life, and relationship of this great citizen. But more importantly, I spoke about a remarkable bond between Sister Ameena and Mr. Gafoor. But more importantly, about the molding of a legacy that would stay alive and continue to grow with the refinement, nurturing, ownership, and most importantly, ownership and propagation by the children, by her children. And I say this again, in your hands lies this tremendous responsibility that was crafted with love, that was nurtured with kindness, that was built with understanding, and that was embedded in a sense of purpose and a sense of duty. and her sense of purpose and her sense of duty surrounding her sense of identity. And her sense of identity was Guyanese to the core. Her sense of identity was her service to her country, her service to her family, and her service to humanity. And I just wanted to reiterate that on this occasion. The passing of Mrs. Ameena Gafoor is a profound loss, not just to her family and friends, but for humanity. Anyone who had the privilege of engaging with her knows that they were in the presence of a rare soul, one who practiced to the core the principles of humility, kindness, and simplicity. Ameena Gafoor, she never tried to impress, and she never engaged in self-promotion. She was the epitome of humility, a kind and patient individual who generously supported causes close to her heart. She would have inherited the wealth of the earth. A kinder soul will be hard to find. Ameena Gafoor's work, her kindness was impactful. It was vast. It was far-reaching. She was extraordinarily generous, using her resources to uplift those in need. Her efforts spanned various causes, but they all shared a common thread: supporting the vulnerable, the marginalized, and the underrepresented. She championed the protection of children and extended a helping hand to the poor and destitute. She supported health initiatives, the blind and sport. However, it is perhaps her role in the arts that stands out prominently. Her invaluable support for the visual and literary arts provided a lifeline for these often underfunded disciplines. Ameena understood that both visual and literary arts, while less popular than musical arts, were critical to the cultural fabric of our society. She poured her time, energy, and financial resources into nurturing these forms of expression, recognizing their intrinsic value in fostering a richer cultural understanding of who we are in our society. Without Ameena Gafoor's unwavering support, literary and visual arts in Guyana would be in a far poorer state. Her contributions were not merely financial, they were acts of commitment and service, motivated by the belief in the power of art to transform society. She was driven by a profound desire to expand our cultural horizons, to help us understand ourselves and each other better. When she launched the Arts Journal, she did so with the intention of filling a void in Guyana's and the Caribbean's literary tradition. Professor Kenneth Ramchan, in the foreword of the first issue, noted that many of society's problems are of a deeper nature, more fundamental issue, and a more fundamental issue, a lack of knowledge of ourselves and those around us. Ameena Gafoor dedicated her life to addressing this gap, using literature as her primary tool. And if you listen to all the tributes today, she did not just write this, she practiced it. Because every family member would have pointed to the fact that she wanted the family to know who they are, to understand who they are, to understand the beliefs, the principles, the values that shape them, and how they should live within that identity that was created for themselves. The Arts Journal became a front of cultural understanding, a platform where various persons could share their stories, their struggles, their triumphs, and their insights. It was Ameena's belief that literature could heal the fractured consciousness of a post-colonial society. In her own words, literature and the arts were the bedrock upon which our understanding of identity, history, and culture was built. Her words. And this is so important in the world today. We see persons running away from their identity, hiding from their cultural heritage because of a lack of understanding, because of a misrepresented view about who they are, about a misinterpretation about who they are. Her work was to allow everyone to understand their place, their identity, their cultural heritage, and what made them special. Ameena Gafoor's work went beyond publishing. She was also a respected literary critic, known for her gentle and generous approach to reviewing the work of others. Her critiques were never harsh or abrasive. Instead, they were thoughtful, insightful, and encouraging. Ameena understood the writer, what they were trying to convey. She also understood that writers are vulnerable, and she approached their work with a deep sense of empathy and respect. She was therefore an active contributor to Guyana's and the Caribbean literary output. Her own published works included Aftermath of Empire, a bibliography of East Indian writing, and A Lantern in the Wind. In her review of Earl Lovelace, The Wine of Astonishment, Ameena Gafoor argued that colonialism had created deep rifts in society and fractured the consciousness of the colonized. Yet, she saw hope in the struggle for cultural security and authenticity, believing it to be a just cause. Now, the weight of her writing, the depth of her writing, is also worth great admiration. She dwelled into areas that we are now exploring when we speak about reparative justice, the emotional aspects of colonialism, the cultural loss of colonialism, the weight that must be attributed to those lost, are ideas and concepts she captured in her writing that are today being reviewed and being part of the battle in reparative justice. For Ameena, writers were the architects of the transformation of our fractured consciousness. And note her words, fractured consciousness. She's referring to a consciousness that was fractured. But she did not leave it there. She dwelled into what was needed to repair that fractured consciousness. And in her understanding and analysis, being true to who you are, being true to your identity, owning who you are, owning your cultural attributes, and celebrating those cultural attributes was a foundational pillar in healing that fractured consciousness. And this is a concept that we must carry forward. It was her theoretical view that the fractured consciousness must be repaired before the economic fracture, the financial fracture are resolved. Because you can get the economic fracture and financial fracture resolved, but if the consciousness, the fractured consciousness is not resolved, we will not be able to enjoy our full identity and who we are. She took time to tell the authentic history of the Caribbean from the perspective of the colonized, rather than the colonizers. She viewed fiction as a vital tool in this endeavor, one that can transcend what we may want to describe as the boring nature of history telling and history writing. She used a gift to make this history interesting, to make the history real, authentic, to link that history to the realities of life. Ameena Gafoor's legacy is one of profound cultural enrichment. She helped us understand who we are, where we come from, and where we are going. She helped us understand each other. No greater purpose can be ascribed to literary arts than this. Her commitment to literature as a means of enlarging our cultural understanding was invaluable. Through her work, she encouraged us to look beyond the surface, to question, to reflect, and to engage with the complexities of our world. Her efforts have left a lasting mark on our culture, a legacy, I believe, that will endure for generations to come. In remembering Ameena Gafoor, you remember a woman of great vision and compassion. She was a true guardian of our cultural soul, a custodian of our collective memory, a champion of humanity. She believed in the power of literature to heal, to educate, and to bring about change. Her passing is a tremendous loss, and especially coming so soon after that of Dave Martins. Ameena Gafoor may no longer be with us in body, but her spirit lives on in the pages of the art's journey, in the works of the artists and writers she supported, and in the hearts of those who had the privilege of knowing her. To her husband, Mr. Gafoor, her children, grandchildren, and the countless friends and associates who had the great fortune of knowing Ameena, I extend condolences of my government and the people of Guyana. I also extend, on behalf of the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party and the membership of the People's Progressive Party, our deepest sympathies. One word on Mr. Gafoor on this occasion. I believe that you should find great comfort in the fact that you have played an immense role in Mrs. Ameena Gafoor's life. That you never shirk from your responsibility, not in the good times, not in the bad times. And in the greatest moment of need, you championed like a giant. You led from the front, and you gave all that you had to give. Finally, we are all taught that we must release the soul. And inshallah, pray that with your continued good work, with your continued strong commitment, the souls will unite one day in an everlasting joy. Ameena Gafoor showed the power of kindness, humility, and generosity. She touched many lives and enriched our cultural heritage. Her legacy will continue to inspire us to look deeper, to understand more fully, and to cherish our human experience. To the extended family of the Gafoors, that is, the members, the staff, the workers, and all those who have experienced the kindness of Ameena, I ask you to remember her in prayerful thoughts and to always reflect in thanking our Creator for blessing us with such a gentle and kind soul. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make her grave spacious. May He grant her light in her grave and grant her the highest place on the day of judgment. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Mr. President. To close, I invite Sheikh Muin ul Haq to lead us in the final supplication.
Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. I did speak earlier. In fact, I was the opening batsman. For more than 2 hours of tributes. How we will be remembered when we are in this state. If we wish to be remembered by our good deeds, let us advance it now. If we do not wish to be remembered by our mistakes, let us abandon it now. We pray that her soul rest in peace. While we pray for her soul to rest in peace, we ask the Almighty to grant us all the blessing that we, while we are alive, we live in peace with each other. We recite the closing chapters of the Quran. We offer our supplication in Arabic, translated into English. To my non-Muslim brothers and sisters, I invite you to offer your prayer for our dear sister in your respective language. For the Muslim burial, 4 rites must be observed. 2 have already been completed: the cleansing of the body and the shrouding. The remaining 2 rites, the 3rd will be observed here after my supplication and a final viewing by you. The janazah referred in Arabic, the funeral prayer, and the 4th and final rite of the deceased, interment at Bedr Fawakting on the east coast of the Marara, where our sister originated and hailed from. Those of you who know the closing chapters of the Quran, we will now recite collectively. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد
قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق من شر غاسق إذا وقب من شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب يقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه المؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت اللهم آمين ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا لا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا رب اجعلني مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي ربنا وتقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي وللمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب ربنا لا تدع لنا في مقامنا هذا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا ميتا إلا رحمته ولا دعاء إلا استجبته يا رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم اللهم ارحم موتانا جميع موتى المسلمين خصوصا المرحومة أمينة غفور يا رب العالمين اللهم اغفر لها وارحمها وارزقها القول الثابت ويسر حسابها وقهم عذاب القبر وعذاب النخل بجنته وارزق أهلها صبرا جميلا وزدهم إيمانا وفقها ويقينا وعلما إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون حقا يا الله استجب دعانا هذا O Allah, you are the giver and taker of life. We accept this decision and decree of yours. From you we came, and to you is our return. We petition you this afternoon to grant eternal happiness to our beloved sister Ameena Gafoor and all those who preceded her from our family and ours and are now in your care. Grant their soul rest and eternal happiness in the hereafter and paradise on the day of resurrection. And grant her relations and grant them relations who will continuously remember them in their prayers and good deeds and uphold their good legacy, O Allah. Grant patience and understanding to our immediate relatives, O Allah, that they will continuously remember you and remember her in their prayers. We ask you, O Almighty, that our passing motivate us to understand our temporary existence here and our purpose of creation, and grant us the ability to fulfill this purpose during our allotted time here, O Allah. Grant us the capacity and the strength to do as much good as we can to as many persons as we can, as long as we can and everywhere, so that when we return to you, we will be remembered by our good deeds, like our sister Ameena, O Allah. And the good deeds and the rewards will follow us to the hereafter, O Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That our passing motivate us, O Allah, to do what is right and forbid what is wrong. Bless this gathering, O Allah, with the good of this life and the hereafter. Bless our country and the leadership, O Allah, with that vision which will ensure the peace and prosperity
of the peoples of our country, O Allah, that we will continue to live amongst each other in peace, love, harmony, and respect for each other, irrespective of our race or our religion, O Allah. That we will emulate Sister Ameena and transcend these barriers, O Allah, these social barriers of race and religion which she crossed, O Allah, and bridge the divide amongst the peoples of our country. O Allah, bless us all and grant her soul eternal rest and eternal happiness. Accept this prayer of ours. Ameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamu mursaleen. Jazallahu anna Muhammadan sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Those persons who wish to have the final viewing, I invite you now, you can file pass the body for the final time. Thank you. You will do that within the next 3 or 4 minutes, after which you will invite our brothers standing in front here for the janazah, the farewell prayer.
As we take the final viewing of the body, we'd like to extend our heartfelt thank you for your contributions today. And of course, janazah will be held immediately after the viewing.
Thank you.